Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu tells UN scribe he fought for democracy and is determined to prove it. Federal government reads riot act to contractors handling Abuja Port Harcourt roads. Plus, UK charges 5 Bulgarian nationals over espionage for Russia. Details of these stories and more in a moment. We begin this afternoon. We begin this tonight with the first citizen of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, who has said that he fought for democracy and was detained for democracy. That as president, he is determined to prove that democracy can provide the development that Nigeria and the African continent urgently demand. President Tinubu also asserted that African nations will no longer accept a situation in which human rights advocacy is used by wealthy and powerful nations to stop developing economies from dealing decisively with malign actors who illicitly siphon and smuggle out the continent's vast mineral resources while smuggling in Western-made weapons which enrich the wealthiest economies in the world at the parasitic expense of African stability and wealth creation. The president stated this when he met with the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres at his UN headquarters office in New York City.
Have been skewed to impede development, industrial expansion, job creation, and the equitable distribution of wealth. If Nigeria is to fulfill its duty to its people, I know, and the rest of Africa, we must create jobs and the belief in a better future for our people. We are pushing for that. We must also lead by example, and we are doing so. To foster economic growth and investors' confidence in Nigeria, I removed the costly and corrupt fuel subsidy while also discarding a noxious exchange rate system in my first few days in office.
Meanwhile, President Tinubu has held a bilateral meeting with João Manuel, President of Angola, on the sidelines of the ongoing United Nations 78th General Assembly in New York to explore opportunities and solidify relationships between the two nations. This is coming as a new Angolan ambassador to Nigeria, Dr. Jose Bamoquina Zhao, is preparing to host an interactive diplomatic dinner between business leaders in Nigeria and their counterparts coming from Angola. Angola and Nigeria share very similar stories with the abundance of natural resources available to both nations, and the interactive section will be an opportunity for the industry players to share experiences and explore business partnerships. According to the Angolan Embassy in Abuja, the interactive session, which will be held at the Transcorp Hilton on October 19, will be under the theme of introducing a new era of sustainable business partnership. Expected from Angola are senior executives from the public sector, the National Bank, private bankers, state and private companies, and the Angola-Nigeria Chamber of Commerce and Industry. While the Nigeria guests expected are governors, bankers, oil and gas executives, and the extractive industry players. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has advised Nigerians in the United States to rise beyond failure by adopting a new mentality for success in all aspects of life. Tinubu made the remarks during a presidential town hall meeting with Nigerians in the diaspora in New York. He also expressed satisfaction with the behavior of Nigerians who have continued to flourish in their chosen sectors in their host nation. The president, who praised the efforts to educate out-of-school children, the health care program, and the need to reduce poverty, stated that Nigeria is a blessed nation and urged Nigerians to embrace one another, emphasizing that there should be no sentiment and discrimination among them. Elsewhere, President Tinubu rang the closing bell at the Nasdaq stock market in New York as he called on the United States business community to invest in Nigeria's bubbling market. The president, who is attending the ongoing 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, was accompanied to the bell ceremony by the president of the U.S. Africa Business Center at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Scott Eisner. The closing bell ceremony held at the 7-story tower of the Nasdaq headquarters in New York signifies the end of a trading session. Meanwhile, the president has described his wife, First Lady Oluremi, as a strong pillar in his journey to success as she marks her 63rd birthday. In a personal message, the president said he had enjoyed the delight of family, political and business life with the First Lady. Tinubu said their bond grew stronger through thick and thin, noting that their love and commitment to each other had only deepened with time. He prayed that God continue to guide and guard the First Lady and bless her with good health and longevity. Away from that now, the presidency says the Chinese construction company China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation Limited, CCECC, has committed to the completion of the Abuja Light Rail project in 8 months. This is according to a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President in Media and Communications Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha. The statement noted that the promise was in line with the determination of President Bola Tinubu's administration to enhance infrastructure development across the country. In another development, former military head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar, retired, has said that Nigeria will surmount its current challenges and emerge stronger in the Committee of Nations. He stated this at the public presentation of the book, The Making of Modern Nigeria, from Pre-Colonial Era Till Date, published by the Sun Publishing Limited in Abuja today. The necessary first step for the stating that was where the unveiled book became auspicious. He said that where Nigerians knew about the country, they would have invaluable insights into understanding the present-day challenges and the way out of the quagmire. Away from that now, the federal government has extended condolences to the families of the security personnel killed in Ehime-Mbano, local government area of Imo State. It would be recalled that gunmen had killed and set some soldiers, policemen, and men of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps ablaze in 2 patrol vehicles in the community on Tuesday. Condoling with the deceased families today, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, described their deaths as tragic, vowing that the federal government would stop at nothing to ensure that the perpetrators were brought to book. According to a statement today by the Ministry Director of Press, Ajibola Ofonja, the minister promised that the families of the deceased would not be abandoned. Meanwhile, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, has given contractors handling remedial works on federal roads in Abuja and Port Harcourt 2 weeks to complete their respective works. Umahi gave the ultimatum while inspecting ongoing road projects in Rivers State and environs today. He also directed state controllers of works to ensure that only road projects where motorists can go through the length and breadth are given certificates of payment for him to sign. Umahi equally announced that the federal government will no longer accept road contract certificate for payment generated by one person. A statement by the Director of Information, Press and Public Relations Unit of the Ministry, Blessing Larry Adams, quoted the minister as saying this while inspecting some roads within Rivers and Akwa Ibom states.
Let me pass vote of no confidence on this road. I wouldn't certify anything on the road. The road has completely failed, totally failed, and is totally not acceptable to us. And the worst is that you've seen the places you walked. They are pools of potholes. There's no conscience to go back to put anything on it. this project must have to stop and be reviewed. We have been brainwashed in this country. We have badly been brainwashed. You're building something on the so-called asphalt. You're on site, the road is failing. You are still doing the same thing, meaning that every 3 years we have to reconstruct our roads. And when Mr. President introduces reinforced concrete road pavement, people are running helter-skelter. This is not acceptable. I'm not here to make the contractors happy, but I'm here to make God happy, to make the president happy, to make Nigerians happy. We must have value for our money.
In the meantime, the federal government has said that this year's Independence Day celebration on October 1 will be low profile and will not feature the usual ceremony at Eagle Square, Abuja. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, said this year's Independence Day would be a time for reflections, to think deeply as a people and the journey forward. Akume revealed this to newsmen after he emerged from closed-door talks with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the Aso Rock Villa, Abuja. The former Minister of Special Duties, who was allegedly reluctant to reveal the full details of the issues discussed, said it bordered on plans for the Independence Day. Elsewhere, 16 Nigerian teachers will be departing on Friday for Liberia under the Technical Aid Corps and at the request of the Liberian government. The Director General of the Directorate of Technical Aid Corps, Yusuf Yakub, said this as the pre-departure program for the volunteers. Yakub, while stating that the volunteer teachers were picked after a rigorous and painstaking process, congratulated the successful candidates and charged them to be good Nigerian ambassadors in Liberia. The Director General also hinted that another batch of volunteers will be deployed in the next 2 weeks. According to him, there were lots of requests on the table for African, Caribbean and Pacific countries asking for volunteers from Nigeria. In another development, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission (RAMFAC) says a total of 5 trillion naira has accrued into the Federation account for the period between January and June 2023. According to reports, the figure was captured in the monthly report to the Federation Account Allocation Committee (FAC) by the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) under the caption CBN Federation Account Component Statement. The RAMFAC chairman, Mohammed Shehu, in a statement said out of the total gross revenue inflows into the Federation account, the sum of 627.3 billion naira was NNPCL JV Petroleum Profit Tax (PPT) due, captured and recorded by the FIRS, but utilized by the NNPCL for other FGN obligations. According to the statement, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission remitted the sum of 823.5 billion naira, while the Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) made a gross collection of 3.658 billion naira, but remitted 3.28 billion naira, retaining the difference as costs of collection. In education, the Director General of the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC), Brigadier General Yushau Ahmed, has assured that efforts are ongoing to secure the release of the remaining 5 prospective corps members abducted in Zamfara. Ahmed made this known at an interactive session with the House of Representatives Committee on Youth Development today in Abuja. He explained that out of the 8 prospective corps members abducted in August on their way to the orientation camp in Sokoto State, 3 had been released. The DG said that all relevant security agencies are working in synergy with the traditional and religious leaders to secure the release of the 5. Ahmed said that the released corps members have been redeployed to the FCT and given proper medical attention. Still in education, the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) and the Taraba State University (TSU) has identified lack of proper funding as a major factor impacting negatively on the smooth running of the university. The leadership of the union made this known today at a press briefing in Jalingo, the state capital. Led by its chairman, Mbave Joshua Garba, the union also identified the non-implementation of Law No. 4 of the Taraba State House of Assembly and urged the state government to do the needful to prevent the institution from collapsing. Away from that now, former Governor Abba Yusuf has vowed to appeal the judgment sacking him as the governor of Kano State, while the All Progressives Congress APC's Nasiru Gawuna was declared the winner of the March 18 election by the Kano Governorship Election Tribunal. The New Nigeria People's Party NNPP flag bearer in the exercise claimed the judgment is a misapplication of the law. Yusuf, while reiterating that the people of Kano voted for him, expressed confidence in reclaiming the mandate. He called for calmness and adherence to the rule of law among Kano residents, urging them not to take matters into their hands. Elsewhere, the Enugu State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal has dismissed the petition of Chris Agu of the People's Redemption Party (PRP) against Peter Mba for alleged forged National Youth Service Corps NYC certificate, non-qualification and corruption. The PRP had claimed that Mba entered a plea bargain with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) in the past. But the tribunal, chaired by Justice Kudirat Akano, today held that the petitioner failed to prove that the respondent did not possess the minimum requirement to stand for election, which is a school certificate for its equivalent. According to him, there is no evidence to support the claim that Mba is not qualified to stand for election. In a related development, Governor Peter Mba has lauded the decision of the tribunal, describing it as victory for democracy and the people of Enugu State. Mba, who also extended hands of fellowship to the opposition candidates and their political parties, said the task to build Enugu remained a collective one, adding that he was committed to working with all, irrespective of political persuasions. The tribunal, chaired by Justice Kudirat Akano, had earlier in the day dismissed the petitions of the governorship candidate of the PRP, Chris Agu, and the candidate of the LP, Chijioke Edoga. In another development, after what looked like a protracted crisis, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shuaibu, apologized to his boss, Governor Godwin Obaseki, today and begged for forgiveness. He apologized after his investiture by Catholic Men Organization Nigeria CMN. Speaking to journalists shortly after the investiture, Shuaibu asked Obaseki to forgive and forget, just as he announced that he had relocated to his new office in accordance with the governor's directive. However, he added that there are still some work to be done in his new office located at 7 Osadebe Avenue.
So we have resumed. There's no problem about it. The governor have asked us to go there. We are going. I am, like I always tell people, I am a loyal servant. There's nothing that has changed. I took a personal vow to support my governor, and you can see my Catholic people are here. Everything about me, if I have a vow with God, there's nothing that will change it. And I can only wish that that relationship that we have, I pray, I know in the next few days and weeks it will come back. I'm missing my governor really, but by the grace of God, I know God will touch the governor's heart and touch all of us. And even those that are trying to be in between, God will touch them to know that I mean well. If there's any mistake that I've made as human, it's just human. It's not out of maybe wickedness, because I'm not wicked. I have a very clean heart. And I will use the medium too to appeal to Mr. Governor. If there's anything that I don't know that I've done, please forgive me, so that we can develop our state together. We have just less than, how many months? Just 1 year to go. We have been the envy of the entire country. It's still possible. So, Mr. Governor, please, if there's anything you feel that I've done, I am sorry. I need us to work together to finish well and strong, because that is my prayer. So,
still to come in the news. Bank of England purses rate hikes. Do stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Thanks for staying tuned. We move on now to Africa, where the head of the Central African Republic has accused the West of triggering the migration crisis on his continent by pillaging its natural resources through slavery and colonization. Taking the podium at the United Nations General Assembly, Faustin Archange Touadéra addressed the migrant crisis on the Italian island of Lampedusa, where thousands of African migrants arrived last week, overwhelming the local community and causing a major headache for the European Union. According to the UN Migration Agency, it was inundated last week when some 8,500 people, more than the entire local population, arrived in 199 boats over the course of 3 days. Reports say EU officials scrambled to respond, and that the President of the European Commission, the EU's executive arm, was scheduled to visit the island on Sunday. Meanwhile, the ousted Nigerian President Mohamed Bazoum has appealed to the West African bloc ECOWAS's court for his release. According to reports, a suit was filed with the court on Monday demanding Bazoum's release and reinstatement as president following his arbitrary arrest and violation of freedom of movement following the coup in July. His wife and son, who are also being detained by the military junta, are named in the application. ECOWAS has threatened military intervention to restore Bazoum to power if diplomatic efforts fail. In the meantime, Ghanaian President Akufo-Addo has demanded the payment of reparations to African nations for the historical injustices of the transatlantic slave trade. Speaking at the UN General Assembly on Wednesday, he emphasized that this was the time to bring the subject of reparations to the fore. He said the world had for centuries been unwilling and unable to confront the consequences of slave trade. It is not the first time the Ghanaian president has spoken about reparations. Last year, he said the time was long overdue to intensify discussions about the issue. He then called for a formal apology by European nations that were involved in the trade and urged the African Union to engage the diaspora to advance the reparations cause. According to the UN, the transatlantic slave trade, which affected millions of Africans, was the largest forced migration in history and one of the most inhumane. The exodus of Africans was spread to many areas of the world over a 400-year period. Ghana was one of the points of departure for many of those enslaved in West Africa. Still in Africa now, the Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi has called for a speedier withdrawal of the United Nations UN force in the country to begin this year. Tshisekedi told the UN General Assembly that he had instructed his government to begin talks with the United Nations to bring forward the start of the progressive withdrawal from December 2024 to December 2023. The Congo president said a mission known by the acronym MONUSCO had failed to bring peace to the country despite being there for about 25 years, noting that it was illusory and counterproductive to continue to cling to the force to maintain peace. He added that it is time for the country to take full control of its destiny and become the main actor in its own stability. Elsewhere, South Africa and the United States are to start testing a new preventive HIV vaccine and have begun enrolling participants to take part in a clinical trial. According to U.S. state research agency, the National Institutes of Health, NIH, the vaccine called VIR-1388 is designed to help a body's T cells that are part of the immune system and patrol and inspect other cells for problems. The vaccine is intended to instruct the immune system to produce T cells that can recognize HIV and signal an immune response to prevent the virus from establishing chronic infection. It will be recalled that in 2020, the NIH suspended the testing of another HIV vaccine in South Africa after a review found that the vaccine was ineffective in preventing HIV transmission. Meanwhile, 3 South African Navy submariners have died and 4 others injured after being washed off the deck of a submarine by high waves. The vessel was off the coast near Cape Town when the 7 crew members were swept away. Reports say a helicopter was delivering supplies during a refueling operation at the time. The South African National Defence Force, SANDF, in a statement said the submariners were participating in a Navy exercise at the time of the incident. According to the Army, all 7 members were recovered, but sadly, there were 3 fatalities, with 1 senior officer in critical condition. It added that 5 others were saved in a subsequent rescue operation. Meanwhile, police said an inquest was opened after the naval incident. So in Africa, Haiti and Kenya have established diplomatic relations, according to a joint statement issued by both countries. The document signed by both the Haitian and Kenyan foreign ministers announces they are to exchange ambassadors. Kenya has offered to send 1,000 police officers to Haiti as part of an international assistance force. The Haitian government appealed last year for foreign help to tackle widespread gang violence. Meanwhile, the United States has been leading UN efforts to organize a rescue mission. According to reports, a draft resolution is being prepared. Meanwhile, a moment of silence was today observed at Kenya's Westgate Mall in the capital Nairobi on the 10th anniversary of a terror attack in which 67 people died. 4 heavily armed militants from the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group stormed the upmarket shopping center and took control of the complex for 4 days on 13th September 2013. Reports say the attack exposed the poor coordination of interagency security teams in responding to terror attacks. The siege ended when the 4 gunmen were killed by security agents. Details about the attackers still remain sketchy, though 4 people were charged with aiding the militants. The government recently announced a new counter-terrorism strategy involving private security guards. Still in Africa now, where Morocco's King Mohammed VI has said that the country will spend 120 billion dirhams to rebuild the regions destroyed by the 8th September earthquake. The funds will also be used to support